Morning, guys.
Good morning, Greg. Good
Yeah, good morning.
morning.
How are you?
We're doing great. Just waiting for Ajish to join the call. And I
And
guess,
John, too. John said he'd be a few minutes late.
okay, Ajish just said like his computer restarted, his system restarted, and so
Yeah,
it will
Ajish is
take a
here.
few minutes for him to join.
Hi,
Where's
Jish.
he
How are
go?
you? There he is.
Hey, morning, Greg. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. Will we have John joining us today?
John should be on in a few minutes. He texted he'd be a little bit late. He also wanted to make sure that he had the credentials all set up, I think.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, we have an old AWS account and a new AWS account. The old one was being used for pictures and some other stuff for the old site, the site that's being used right now. And the original name of the site was Izoca, Izoca. So the credentials for that were under Jeff at Izoca.com, who was the original CEO. And we never changed that to be Greg at ubsports.com. So when we gave up the URL, Izoca.com, we lost control of that account because I couldn't set up a new password and that kind of stuff. So we actually have to buy Izoca.com again.
Okay.
So it's the stupidest thing. It's like $5,000.
Wow.
But I called the people who own the site. It's one of those URL aggregators, and so I called them yesterday and I said, what do I do? They said, well, this is what you do. You buy it on a 24-month plan, and you don't pay for any month after the first one, and you give the site back to us, and we're all happy, and we got $200, and you can have an email and get the information. So okay, that's a well spent $200.
Not too bad. Yeah, they hold you ransom for sites that you owned in the past just because you did not renew in a year or so. Yeah, it happens.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, it could have been worse. It definitely could have been worse.
Right.
So I'll be doing that today. I should have the credentials over the weekend, and then I'll be able to get into the email and get that stuff moved over. At very least, I don't know if I can actually change the email address in the AWS account as the root user, but what I'll do is set up an IM there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and you could also add a secondary email as a recovery email address as well, if I remember correctly. And we have John. Good morning,
yeah,
John.
John just showed up. Hey, John.
Morning.
All right, so I guess we can start with a walkthrough of the current setup, like how many servers we have. Do you have any architectural diagram or any kind of visual representation, or even a spreadsheet about the servers in the current UB Sports setup?
No, I don't have any. I mean, Greg, potentially you might have some.
All I really have is the wiki.
You have a wiki? Okay, that's a good start. Would you mind sharing that wiki page with us? Binu, do you already have it?
John,
No.
do you have that handy?
No. I do. I don't know that the wiki specifically helps because there's a lot of obsolete data. The other concern I would have is sharing that while this is being recorded by a third party,
Okay.
because it contains credentials to servers and things. The wiki doesn't really outline the architecture at all. It simply has different systems and some credentials for those
Yeah, the
systems.
accounts.
I provided you the info for the servers that we have now that run the web server. Previously, I could give them to you again if you need them, but I really would hesitate to just share that document on a recorded system that gets archived elsewhere. I'm not sure that the wiki will really reveal too much to you as well. I
Gotcha.
believe that our current architecture, where we have the web server, there are three Ubuntu servers, which are version 12.x.
12.6.
I believe that the web server and MySQL server are running on the same machine, which is Ubuntu 12.04. Whenever we've had issues, that's the only server I've ever connected to. There's a Ubuntu server version 12.10, which I can connect to, but I don't believe that that server's in use. My gut feeling is that there was probably an upgrade planned to go from 12.04 to 12.10, which never happened. Or quite possibly the 12.10 server was a staging server, though it would seem odd that that's a different version. There's a third machine, which is, per the documentation, considered a virtual machine, but I can't even connect to that machine. The IP address doesn't even respond. So that's what I can tell you regarding the existing servers. Those three servers are the machines that I passed you the IPs and the credentials for, I don't know, several weeks ago or something. I gave them to you. I don't know if you've ever connected or anything, but I can provide them back. So that's basically my understanding of the environment. I believe that there are some calls to AWS based on simply anecdotes that Greg has told me, but I don't know that that's true. Greg is working on getting the credentials to that old AWS platform. So I don't even know what's there and how it's being used. So that's kind of, you know, a verbal description of what I know about the environment.
Yeah, the wiki also has the credentials for the providers that we were using, SendGrid and a couple other of those, so that those things might be helpful as we go forward. There's one geo postcodes that had expired, but that was being used for geolocating a person's zip code. That I spoke with them a couple days ago, and they said we might as well just start a whole new system with them. And if we decide to use geo postcodes, they'll just set up another account, and we'll just run with the new account. As far as the old AWS, John, I was telling Ajish about this before you got on. I will have to buy the URL, izoka.com, but it's on a 24-month plan. And I called them yesterday. They said that I can buy it on the 24-month plan and then just return it to them within the first month, and we'll be charged 1 month, which is $208. So just to get the information off of that server. And so far I know that it's being used for pictures, and that's really all I know that it's being used for. So there's a MySQL database that's being set, that's sitting there that is basically being used for that. So my buying the URL, then setting up through a system that they have to set up the email address, jeff@izoka.com, and then asking for a new password, I'll be able to get into that and take care of what's in there, and send those credentials on to the guys.
My guess is going to be that all the static content is going to be on that AWS instance. um, whatever. So whatever we find there, we'll try to make use of it. So and you would like to have all these migrated to the new AWS environment um, to be serving the users until we launch the new website. Am I right?
Yes, number one, I think it'll be easier for you to have everything in one place, and it's going to have to work better than the current servers right now. Also, I think it'll be smart, be easier for us to get into those databases and take care of everything, and migrate from one AWS to another AWS.
Gotcha. So John,
Yeah, got it.
a quick question. So if one of those machines is not reachable, then are we getting billed for that? Or we could just shut it
I have no
down?
idea. I've never seen a bill. I mean, so
Yeah, I don't think we're getting billed for that third server.
I mean, I would imagine it's either that the server doesn't exist and the documentation is out of date, or the documentation is up to date, and the server is just unreachable for some other reason. Maybe there's a service that's not running, or I don't know what that machine really is or should be.
Okay.
I also have a call into the engineers at the server farm. I'm going to talk to them later on today. See if I can get some answers for them or from them.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the two machines that we are not using at the moment, it's highly recommended that we just shut it down just in case we are getting billed for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite possible that the one server that I can connect to, but I don't know what it's used for, that could potentially be running cron jobs or something.
Yeah.
I would be very hesitant about, shutting it down without understanding what exactly is on that system.
Sure. I think what we can do is log in and check all the processes that are running. Try to identify any that might be significant to the application. And yeah, I mean, shutting it down is the last thing on the list. What we can do is draw up a new architecture diagram which is agreeable to all of us, and then start moving the application over to our current AWS account. I think it starts with the database. Once we move the database, do you know which web server is running? Is it Nginx or what is the route?
I think it's running Apache.
Apache? Okay.
Okay. But you will have a web application server also running, which will be in Ruby on Rails. Most probably it will be a Puma server.
Okay. So Bino, I think John says that he has already shared the credentials. If you don't have it, let's get it.
I think John had shared it on the group chat, and I think I'm having it on our machine. So I think we will be able to check out the connection whether it's working or not.
Okay. So let's go and check that and understand the architecture per se, the web server, the application server, any crons that are running. Do we have any? Since it's a single server, I don't think that there's any MySQL or application happening. However, let's make sure of that and all that. And in the meantime, we can also access the error logs and see what's going wrong with the 500 internal server error.
Yeah, I've looked through all the standard logs, and I have in the standard locations, and I have not been able to find anything specific related to that error, just so you know.
I think that 500 is thrown from the Ruby application application. The most probable cause will be something related to the database, active records. Whenever a query or a database connection fails, the Ruby will get a nil or a null, and that will usually redirect you to a 500 page. That may be
Yeah,
the
it's coming,
99%
it's
chance for
being
it.
generated. The only thing I've been able to determine is if I use, the network inspector with a browser, I can see that the 500 is being generated by the endpoint called users. The database itself is running because you can log in, it's retrieving content, etc. So it has something specific to do with the sign up process.
Sign up, exactly. So
So
most
if you go
probably
to
it
the
will be
site,
something related to the insert query. Whenever user clicks on the sign up, some insert query will be performed, and that may be the specific section where we will have to look for in the Ruby on Rails code.
All right. So just to make sure, I'm reconfirming that we have not made any changes to the server in the recent past, right? Like in terms of
Correct.
folder permissions.
the only thing that's been done recently is Greg had requested that they increase the disk space allocation because SQL Server, there wasn't enough disk space for SQL to continue to keep running, and it used to go down. And once we increased the disk space allocation, those problems went away.
Were we getting a 500
that's
error
the
when that
thing.
was happening, John?
No,
It was just
no,
closed
the server was just not responding.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I was under the assumption that we did not have credentials. So now that Vinu has it, we'll do a quick check and get back to you by Monday. Should that be okay?
That'll be fine. I'll work on my side too and get that other database available.
All right. And this 500 error is consistent with every request, right?
Yeah.
Is it
No, Ajish, it is only for the sign up, I think, because I was able to log out and all.
Correct. It's when the member,
for this.
right.
Okay, so Binu, do we have all that we need to actually investigate the problem, or do you need some more information?
Yes, we are having the credentials with us, so that will be enough for us to connect to the servers and check the logs.
Yep, let's work on it as soon as we can.
Okay, thanks, guys.
That's all I have for now. Unless you have any more questions, I think Jibin and his team is working on freezing the trainer applications, the requirements for the trainer apps. When do you think, Jibin, you can have that sent to Greg and John?
Maybe so KP is working on it and she's listing down the new features, and maybe by the end of today or tomorrow, she'll be putting it on our Slack group. So as soon as she'll put it over there, I'll ping you, and whenever you guys get a chance to go through it, please go through it and get back to me so that we can work on the estimate, and by Wednesday call we'll be able to freeze the SRS.
Yeah, Ajish, were you on the call last time? I think we were talking about decreasing the requirements on the athletic trainer and the fitness trainer apps, because it's the only people who are going to be accessing the apps are the actual trainers. Their clients are all going to be using the UB Sports app.
Mm-hmm.
So take a little bit of pressure off of the developing that has to happen there. But on the other hand, that workflow is going to have to happen on the UB Sports app and on the UB Sports site. Okay,
from a business point of view, is that going to be a revenue generating app for you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So what takes precedence? Is it UB Sports or the trainer apps?
That's a good question. I would say that the UB Sports app needs to take precedence because without that up and working, the clients of those trainers can't do anything.
Got it. Okay, so we'll go as per plan. We are a little bit ahead of our schedule, so that's a good thing. If we can save a little more time with the team finishing more stuff over time, we can take up the now that it's simplified, we can take up the trainer apps rather earlier. So let's see. Yeah.
Also, the recruitment app is getting more interesting. We started working on the personal profiles that people are going to be building on UB Sports, and it's gotten sort of deep. We're getting to the point where only like the information that people are going to be putting in there are really only usable for somebody who is recruitable. So it's asking for their in sports stats, like how fast they can throw a fastball and that kind of stuff, you know, stuff that other people wouldn't really care about. So it's really we're getting very, very clear on how we're doing that, but we're going to go through the workflow on that with the team today at 11 o'clock. So we'll be able to give you some insights as to that over the next couple of days.
That's nice. Okay. Yeah. So that's getting us closer to the vision or crystallizing the vision.
Yeah, it's really moving. It's looking good. I'm getting excited now. We're about 60 days out from launch, and you know, it's a very exciting time right now.
Sure. All right. I think we can let you go.
There's
Yes,
a couple things that I want to raise. The existing server, at least the one that runs the web and database right now, is a much older version of Ubuntu. And when you connect via SSH to that server, it says that there's like, I don't know, almost like 300 updates that need to be applied. 240 of them or something are security updates. So that's number one. Number two is I don't believe that we can create an instance of using that version on AWS because I think it's too old of a version.
John, I think we will be able to create only the version 18 of Ubuntu because that is the most recommended one now.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what I've seen in AWS, you can run version 16, 18, I believe, and there might be another one. But anyway, my point is that I'm not so sure, I'm skeptical that we will be able to migrate this into the AWS environment simply because if we use a newer version of the OS, Ruby may not work and require updates because it's been years since there have been any updates applied. It could require code changes. So those are some of the concerns that lead to my skepticism regarding our ability to migrate this application.
So John, what I would recommend is that we do a pilot run, get the exact same code, but install everything afresh and put only the code and might run into errors. And if those are things that we can quickly resolve by making minor changes to code or including some new libraries, we can try to do that. But I don't think we should spend too much time on the old website. If that doesn't succeed, we will leave the server as it is without touching it, because it's only.
I agree, and you know that I raised that only because you guys are well aware, as am I, that if we try to jump multiple versions on the OS, there's probably corresponding changes to Ruby, to MySQL, to PHP, and that becomes basically an entirely new development effort, to track
Especially
down.
Ruby, because, yeah, Ruby
Yeah,
changes with
so-
every version. You gotta change the code like in every new library that comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there should be a checkpoint for us to say, this is what we've discovered in trying to get it to run or whatever. But I'm not so sure that, I'm not convinced that we're going to be able to migrate it without significant effort. And without effort, that makes it not worthwhile to spend the time doing.
Yes.
So those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
One final thing is, as we were talking, I went through the wiki that Greg is referencing, and I'd like to share my screen. I removed all the passwords from it for the time being, just so you can look at what's in it. A lot of the information in it is obsolete, based on what I've learned to date. But I'd like to kind of just step through that document so you can see it. Let me get to the right screen. All right, this is, you can all see the document?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the date of this document is, 5 years old. So there was a lot of information in it about servers and code repositories that are just obsolete. Those repositories don't exist, certain servers don't exist, etc. So the one of the 3 servers that I have mentioned to you before that I provided credentials for, the reason I may not be able to connect by SSH is because that may in fact be a VMware machine. And because these credentials for VMware are in this wiki. I've not tried to use VMware to connect to that machine because I don't know what that machine even does, other than potentially allow you to manage the other servers in the environment. There are 2 GoDaddy passwords. I'm not sure which account is which. Maybe one of them was previously for Izoka, and one is for UB Sports.
Yes, the 7942 is the one that's working right now.
Yeah. Logical.net is where the 3 existing servers currently are. That's the provider. I've never used the username Buzz Media to access anything. And based on what I know at this point, the 3 servers that LogicalNet told us that we have running in our environment are the .87, the .88, and the .82. So 88 says that it's production. 87 says that it's staging, but that's not true. 87 is in fact our production server, and we don't log in using Buzz Media. The credentials are different. We do not use Zocalo username to connect. That doesn't work. We don't use, we do use admin to log into those servers. The passwords, of course, are in the document I previously provided you. Here's SendGrid. engine yard, which appears to be the continuous deployment or the automated deployment mechanism. I never really previously heard of engine yard. I don't even know if it exists. I don't know if our code is up there or if these are just deployment jobs that run. I've never used it.
John, I
don't know.
think engineered is used for continuous integration, something similar to Jenkins. This is especially for Ruby.
Yeah, so in any case, my point is I'm unfamiliar if that even still exists, if that stuff is out there, et cetera. But that's in there. The geo postcodes, which Greg mentioned earlier, that was kind of a location service that we would use. I don't know how it got used. This is the information that we use. The .87 server with UB Sports as the username, and the password, of course, is in that document. SendGrid is listed again as UB Sports. So this account was probably the previous owner for Isoka, and it was probably migrated to a UB Sports account at SendGrid. So I've never connected to SendGrid to see exactly what we're doing there, how many messages we send, et cetera. So that's what's in the wiki. I can provide this to you through email with the passwords in it so that you have it and can, use it. The other document that I want to show you, I'll share now. This is the one that I previously provided you. Let me open it, hang on. Okay, so if you can see this document, I've added a little bit more information than the document that I provided you, but essentially this is the .87 server that I was referencing. This is the live site, the live database, and the SSH credentials to get you in. This server, the .88 server, does exist. You can connect. I don't know what it's used for. And this is what I believe is the VMware machine. If I try to use PuTTY to connect to it, it just times out. So I believe that if this is, because it was referred to as a VM machine, I believe that you need to use a VMware client, which I've never tried to do. But those are the credentials. And these credentials and information were all provided by the hosting company, logical.net.
Okay. That's very useful, John. So, yeah, you could, I think we have the essential logins with Binu to actually log into the server and start investigations.
And
However,
whatnot. So I think, quite honestly, experience, I mean, that has always been the
We lost
Did
him
he
there.
cut? Yeah,
I'm sorry,
did he cut out?
there was some crosstalk. I don't know what happened. So yeah, however, yeah, you could send those dogs just for posterity's sake or for referencing. But I think we got a good picture of how things are. Things are pretty much zeroed down to a single server running in MySQL and a web server and an application server. If we need any more
Yeah,
information,
and you know that that wiki I showed you, I mean, identifies or says that there's a load balancer with multiple servers, but you know, when I contacted the hosting provider to figure out how to connect to these, they didn't even reference those servers. So I've never seen an invoice or a bill, so I don't know what we're paying for there. I don't know if those extra servers really exist. You know, my focus, if I were trying to attack, my focus would be on the server with the IP address .87, and start from there. If there are connections to other servers, you know, that would be part of the discovery, is that you find that there are connections to other servers or something like that. And as soon as we get off this call, I will send email to you, Ajish, with that wiki, with the passwords included. And I will send a new version of the document that I previously sent, because it has some extra info like the version of the OS and stuff like that.
Understood. Yeah, my guess is that it was probably a bigger setup in the past, and then they cut it short to a bare architecture, something like that.
Yeah. And like I said, you know, the wiki that I showed you when I shared my screen, the original version that Greg gave me had a lot of other information, like a code repository, and some other things that just aren't valid anymore. So I've removed that info from the wiki, simply so that I would not be confused by obsolete info. You know, it might have been relevant to the previous developer that Greg utilized, you know, as they did a transition or something of that nature, but I cut out all the obsolete info.
Okay, I think that's all we need for the time being. We'll get back to you an update by Monday,
Okay.
either by email or on Slack.
Okay.
All right, great.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.
Have a great
Thank
weekend.
Greg. Thanks, John.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.